Hi, I'm Brian Crosby, and I'm the STEM learning facilitator for 6 counties in northwestern Nevada after spending over 30 years in the classroom. And really, I came to realize when STEM first jumped out a few years back and became the next big thing in education was that I'd been doing STEM all along and didn't realize it. And when I'm presenting here today at the NSTA conference, one of my big points is that when you integrate technology with the science and it becomes language intense, and it actually becomes a fantastic intervention with your students. Most of my students are second language learners, excuse me, and come from backgrounds where their language skills are poor. And so what I found was when students are connecting around the world and are being forced to talk to other students and interact with them about their learning, that tends to force them to really think about their language and what they're going to say and how they're going to say it and the words they want to use and how they're going to do the research pieces to be ready to talk about those things. If they're going to be hooking up with other students and adults around the world to not only talk about things but share learning, they want to look prepared. They don't want to come across as not knowing what they're doing, and that actually has them do interesting things like come to you and ask you for a better word for this and that, and does this sound right? And they'll practice more with each other and learn to speak up. Another thing I noticed whenever I'd have students share is especially second language learners are much shyer and they won't project their voices and they tend to look down, and so working with them even on those skills, you could see the confidence build in them, and and then by interacting with students that and other children that they're not usually around from all kinds of different socioeconomic groups, that also they see how those other students, their excitement or the way they speak or the word choice they use, and that's a big piece. Now you throw in the science and the excitement of that, and then something they really want to share out because they just launched a weather balloon to 100,000 feet, or we just did experiments over Skype with a class in New Zealand or in New York from clear across the country. So the whole point is that when students are involved in science experiments, other kinds of inquiry pieces, it gives them the reason to want to go read more about it, become more an expert in it, and then it just kind of cycles. They've read more about it, so now they're more into doing the inquiry pieces, and then when they do the inquiry pieces, they've got all these reasons to want to Skype in with someone or to write about it on their blogs, because blogs are so great about, a blog can be a podcast, a blog can be, just photos, a blog can be video clips and voice threads and so much more, that becomes the area where they share out all that, and then they get, because blogs are a two-way street, then they get feedback from others. In fact, we've ended up Skyping in classes from New Zealand because they saw experiments my students had done on their blog, and their teacher didn't know how to direct them to have those experiments, so we just Skyped them in one day and did the experiments with them, and that was pretty cool. We've done other projects where we've used combinations of video conferencing and blogs and Google Docs and other wiki pages to do really involved projects where students in my class were actually in groups with students in a class on Long Island, New York, and they had to collaborate using all those pieces to design science experiments to show certain aspects of energy. For example, light energy, and they had to show how light energy works and then how it transforms into something else. And so to do those collaborative pieces, since they weren't always in school at the same time, Google Docs and whatever allowed them to share a doc and then be able to collaborate in there about what are we going to say and who's going to do which research piece, and let's put a template in there to share our data in and that kind of thing. So it really becomes a real life learning experience, and then because all that's on the web and it's still there, even years after they've left your classroom, you're hearing back from those kids saying, you know, I just showed somebody else, you know, that experiment we did, and even some of the outtakes of when something went wrong, and so kids get excited. The learning gets shared. They learn more how to interact with other students and adults. We Skype in experts from time to time about pieces. We had a guy Skype in from Iceland once when we were studying geology. He's a friend of mine, and it just so happened 3 weeks later he came to Reno to do a talk, and so he visited my classroom, and that was really exciting for the kids. This guy that they only knew over video conferencing from Iceland came and visited their room, and then that's another reason for him to want to write about that. Hey, you know, this guy came today, and here's what he said, and he gave us all a coin from Iceland that he explained was worth less than a penny at that time. So all those things then become reasons to write, reasons to talk about things, and you really get kids using their language a lot more. It's a real language intense piece, and yet it's all about the science and the social studies and the other things that we've tended to cut out of education the last 12 years.